Okay. So we're recording,
Okay.
and uh, you were saying how the information that you're getting is well, maybe you could repeat that for the recording.
Well, I guess
Jenny.
when I work with the land, it's kind of intuitive. Some of it's because I read all these organic gardening books, but
Right.
some just I kind of, and then I watch, you know, like if I'm going to go pull a bunch of weeds and there's all these lizards on it eating bugs, I leave them.
Yeah. So you're paying attention to how all of the intricacies work. And what I feel is growing out of this workshop is a way to address messages when they come to you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm getting. And when we start to talk about fire today, I've noticed that again, I'm not picking the topics. I'm letting Gaia tell me what we're going to talk about, and
Right.
what different things mean. And some of it, the science is not very complicated. It's the spiritual message that's more important, because we've seen, some of these things that are coming up, we see them all the time. So we understand them. We understand
Right.
who they are. And all I'm doing is giving you, okay, well, here's the science part that you already know. and and then here's the spiritual message that comes out of that. And it's been, for me, also a really wonderful experience of really seeing even more what the symbolism is of things, and how the earth is really showing us how to be. So this has been, I'm having a good time.
I love it. I love it. Well, I
Yeah.
can't not make myself. I will finally have the time. I have learned, do not travel this time of year. But, even though I had fun with my family and everything, I think another time of year is better.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me when I went before New Year's. The weekend of New Year's, went down to see my family, and a 4.25 hour trip turned into a 6 hour trip because everybody was going somewhere. Coming back was okay because we came
Yeah.
back for New Year's Eve, but getting down there was horrible, and trying to get in and out of Southern California anymore is so hard. Yeah. So the water recordings are in the group, and what
Yeah.
I did for everybody during the Thursday appointment was
Mm-hmm.
I did water readings for each of you based on what you're going to get from the meditation at the end of the water. So whatever it is, it's already done.
I
Uh,
love it.
all you have to do is go into the meditation, and it's a meditation that helps you find your water elemental. And then I did readings for each of you on what kinds of messages that she has, what's the conversation between you and her. And Jenny has one too. So
I love it.
I know everybody's got one. So I'm going to go ahead and start the screen share. Okay. So we are on the science and spirituality of fire. Okay. And I got my trusty journal with me. Sometimes, like, the stuff that comes pouring out here, I do my best to put the bullet points up, and then because I've been channeling it, I don't remember it as well as I thought I would. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what the flickering in candle flames means, how fire ignites, the release of energy from burning things, or actually, well, we'll get to that. Yes, it is the release of energy from burning things. It's the type of heat energy that's given off. The color of fire, and then how fire opens seeds. And that's one of those topics everybody knows. Everybody knows how fire opens seeds. And then when I started to write about it on the messages from it, that one actually had the most complicated message from, I believe, of all of these topics here. Yeah, it's quite interesting. So anyhow, I have us in front of the words. I'm moving us down here. Okay, so here's our first topic, the flickering candle flame. So the way it works is the wax is basically a hydrocarbon. So it's a really good fuel for burning. And when we light the wick, the wax melts, and then the wax like soaks up into the wick, and that's what keeps the flame burning. So while it's burning, it's giving off carbon dioxide and water through the top, and then heat is coming off the sides of the flame, and that heat kind of circles back around and keeps adding to the heat that's needed to keep the wax melted, which feeds the wick, which keeps the fire burning. And when a flame flickers, it only does this initially, and then it stabilizes because there's often some uncombusted material, like little tiny particles that moves up through the flame. It passes through it, and it creates this flicker in it. So that's true for any fire, and but it stabilizes, and eventually it starts to burn clean, and usually burns everything and doesn't go back to that. Now that's with a candle. Now I imagine an actual, like a forest fire, as things ignite, as it's moving along, it will continue to do something like that, but not in a candle flame. And the spirituality of this is important to actually specifically to the candle. Now I have to move us again. So I know, it's funny. So the message, so this is a conscious lighting of a candle. So it's an actual conscious, controlled, intentional cleanse that's done. So it's not something that comes as a surprise. It's something that we choose to do, and that the fuel actually represents what we're clearing. And that when we initially start a clearing, that's our work challenges to actually kickstarting the cleanse. And this kind of clearing is what this represents, is something that we know is going to bring us more peace and contentment. So it's actually easier for us to go ahead and do it. We've reached a place where it's okay. I know I need to do this. I'm just going to do it. I know how good I'm going to feel when it's done. It's not about something where there are obvious obstacles or a great amount of resistance. It's just this nice, peaceful and it reminds me, I was thinking about this just before we started, and I was thinking, I have that one of my fire cards is actually of a window with a curtain and a candle in it. And then there's this little book that says all about me. I don't remember which fire card that is, but I'm thinking that is so the energy of that card. I didn't even realize that. So I'm learning more deeply my own self, what all of these different representations are that I chose to put into my card deck 15 years ago. So wow. I think it's pretty awesome the way the connection works, and the way we are given information. It's just amazing. So if that all is clear, we'll move on to the next topic.
So I do have one quick question.
Okay.
If you don't, like, just say you light a candle and you're not really setting an intention, does it still set up some kind of cleanse of stuff you're working on, or is it more of an intentional thing?
It's more of an intentional, you know how we use candles in ceremony and ritual?
Right.
Yeah, it's more in that type of circumstance. So every time you light a candle doesn't mean that you are getting ready to do some kind of cleanse. But if you have a dream or an image keeps showing up to you, then it's a sign that there's something for you to clear, and it should be fairly easy. It shouldn't be too challenging. It's just that, but if you ignore it, then it will turn into something else, right? So at that point in time, right. At that point in time, it's something easy. It'll be easy to do. And the only thing that makes things hard is resistance. That's really the only thing. Does that answer that question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I keep trying to use my down arrow and it doesn't like that. Okay. So the next topic is ignition. I really dug this because I didn't really know when I first started looking at this just what fire really is. What is the process of fire? And the ingredients are the fuel, so whatever's burning, and then you need oxygen to help feed it, and you need an ignition temperature. So all different things have different types of ignition temperatures. So, wood will have a lower temperature that it ignites at. It'll be lower than perhaps, well, let's just look at wood in general because there's scales. So a denser wood, the hardwoods, that is going to have a higher ignition temperature as opposed to the ones that aren't as dense. And I'm trying to think of something else that could burn, like maybe rubber would have a higher ignition temperature than wood in general. It's just harder to get it to catch fire and burn. So the ignition temperature is a heat source, and the obvious ones are lightning, focused light, like a magnifying glass, friction, which that's when you start a fire, rubbing the two sticks together. A match, though, when I think of a match, I still think that's friction. It's just uses a chemical compound on the match that is easier to light than rubbing two sticks together. And then, of course, other fire. So these are the things that make something hot enough for that spark to ignite. So then the process of burning is where the molecules in the fuel break apart, and then they combine with oxygen to create water and carbon dioxide. That's what burning is. So something that is, it makes sense that something that is denser in carbon, something that's has more organic matter, is going to be easier for it to burn because there's more stuff to react with the oxygen, with the heat applied to it. And those chemical reactions, just like in the candle, the heat of the flame feeds the melting of the wax and creates fuel. Those chemical reactions, because things are breaking apart, they cause a lot of heat that continues to provide that ignition temperature. So in a chemical bond, when you've got two atoms bonded together, when you release them, there's energy stored in that bond, that's where the heat comes from. So heat is released when they come apart. That's not true for all of them. We don't need to delineate between those two right now. That doesn't matter. But I don't want you to think that all bonds release heat. Some actually take it in. They need it. to release. But when you separate out this kind, it just goes. So it's exothermic. The heat comes out. Endothermic, the heat comes in. So you have different types of reactions. So this one releases heat and allows for that igniting process to continue. Okay. Okay, so the process of igniting, the spirituality of it is, it's the release of a really passionately emotional type of energy. And there's a special alignment that occurs for this to happen. And it might seem like unusual that everything would line up. You know, so many things need to actually line up for it to happen. But it's something that actually happens all the time and is really quite ordinary, except it creates extraordinary results. So that special alignment occurs for the soul. The soul has requested an awakening because the human person, and I think it's funny that I don't say human person, but when I'm meditating on this and they're talking about us, they call us human persons. And I think it's because everything has sort of a personhood, but we are human persons.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So the human person has asked for an awakening, a conscious awareness for their individuality and their authenticity to come out. And while it might seem like a surprise to the human person, the soul has been, setting itself up for this kind of shift for a long time. It's the kind of thing that happens. I think about the story that Leisha tells about how she broke her foot when they were on their journey, when they were on their family journey, and she broke her foot. And that's one of those kinds of things where she had something that had been brewing in the universe for a while, and it needed to be, she needed to shift into like a receiving. I don't remember exactly what she said about that, but she needed to receive more support. So she got placed into some circumstances where that was all that there was, and everybody around her had to give her that support because she needed it, and she couldn't do, standing up things for herself anymore. So it really comes from not living for your own self. And it's a big, massive wake-up call and creates all these big life changes. And the big life change is actually pursuit of your soul's purpose. And that's why it's such a passionate release. It actually, explodes out into the world what your soul's purpose is. So for me, it was my breakup from somebody that I thought was going to be my life partner forever. And he's the one who left. So that was super challenging for me. And it took me months and months to get back to being myself. And I'm still working on it. That's the crazy part. I'm still working on it, on dealing with that. So, and that's been like 5 years. So what it has done for me though, is it got me to wake up and really start living for myself. I wasn't doing that. So, I think that, I don't think I missed anything. Do you have any questions?
No, that, I love the way you put it, but it makes all sense.
Okay. Great. Let's see what's next. Oh yeah, I really loved this one. So I didn't even stop to think about this, before, I haven't ever thought about this. You know how you have a convection oven? What does that mean? What does that mean to have a convection oven? So these are the ways that the heat transfers. So it is a wave that moves through something, and it does this in three different ways: radiation, convection, and conduction. Where radiation is just the heat moves through, travels through space in waves, and it starts to heat up the thing that's next to the fire, or it heats up you, that when you're sitting around a campfire, then you are receiving radiating heat. And it's the same, that's the same, even though it's not fire, it's the same that's coming out of a radiator. You know, it's
Right.
the heat is moving through the air and warming you up. Convection is what happens to air when air heats up, it expands. As in that expansion, it takes the heat out with it. So that's how a convection oven works, apparently. The air is warmed, it expands, and what makes, I guess, a convection oven so awesome at cooking is because it thoroughly bakes something, right? Because the air has expanded and it's creating the same heat throughout. And so then when you see billowing smoke coming up, you're actually seeing that expansion. You know, the smoke is just a marker where you can see where the air is expanding, and and then it warms whatever the fire is headed towards. The last one, conduction, is when heat passes through a material. So instead of passing through air, it's passing through matter. So the example that I found was, leaf litter. So the leaf litter's on fire and the heat is transferring through the litter. It could also be transferring through the soil or transferring through this log, and it's heating things up as it goes through the matter that is on fire. Is all of that clear? Okay. So what these different types of heat transference mean. So the radiation, which is that movement of heat through the air, this is the energy of the tasks that we need to do to create the soul's passion. So, and I thought this was interesting. It's all these side tasks that need to be done. And this is something I'm going through right now. And I'm getting these directives and they're telling me, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this. We know you don't want to do these things, but if you want your soul's passion to come into the creation, then you have to do these things. So you may not feel passionate about them, but they're necessary. So when that's something that keeps me going with it, when I'm doing things I don't want to do, is because I've received the message. When I sit down and go, okay, what am I going to do today? And I get told what I'm going to do. And I've got this example up here that I wrote down. So I'm going out of town tomorrow, and I've been creating these segments 1 week ahead. I have this general outline of what I want to cover, and then I've been creating these segments 1 week ahead. But I've been told that I am to finish both of our remaining segments while I am at my friend's house next week. So I have like 4 or 5 days to create them, to create the whole thing. And then I was told a date that I needed to have for my open house of bringing soil harmonics into my other business, which they told me was February 3rd. And I'm like, this better be a weekend. And it turns out it's a Sunday, so it works. And then I was told what I needed to do on Monday when I get back from my week away. And so on Monday, I have to go file some paperwork so that I can have Abalone Coast doing business as Soil Harmonics. And then after that, I've been told I'm supposed to focus on making money because I'm taking a position to do card readings at our metaphysical store here in town, and then make the Soil Harmonics presentation for open house. And it's I don't want to go fill out the DBA paperwork. I could probably wait, but if I didn't follow the directives, they're not going to give me the next thing to do. So that radiation energy is important. Anyhow,
I can see that a place I can fall down easy.
What?
So I can see how that's a place I would fall down easily.
Yeah, but once you understand what's going on, then it's like, okay, I can do this. I'll get it done. I know it's going to lead me to where I want to be. So then conductance is your inner warmth, your self-care. And if you want to be a better conductor of whatever it is that your passionate purpose is, then self-care is important. That makes you a better conductor. And when you nurture yourself and take time for that, then you can conduct the energy of your passion better. So I did that yesterday. I was having a hard time with some stuff. My best friend just packed up and moved to Washington yesterday. And I was having a really hard time dealing with it. So when I checked in with Spirit, I was told that I needed to take care of my heart today. That was yesterday. I needed to take care of my heart and to take a complete and total self-care day. Don't worry about anything else. Just do the nurturing thing that needs to be done so that I could move through my grief process. So that's going to make me a better conductor of my passionate purpose. I have to be whole and feel good. And then convection is, this is the drive. It's like the inner passion that you need to expand yourself. It's what stretches you. So the more you push your own boundaries, the more gifts come to you. And as you expand and push those boundaries, then the pursuit and the creation of your passionate soul purpose gets easier and bigger. So we can all have as like big of a creation as we would like to have. Not all of us do that. Some of us are, feel more in tune with that's what our reason is for being here on the planet. And the more we stretch ourselves and expand those boundaries, then the easier it becomes to create that passionate purpose. Does all of that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay. All right. I love this. This is like one of my favorite things. Now I got to put this over here. I felt like I had to, this is all about the color of fire. This is one of my paintings, this phoenix rising from the flames.
Uh-huh.
And I love the way the fire turned out in this painting with all the different colors in it. And the thing that happens with the chemistry that creates color has always been so fascinating to me. So if we're looking at, this is an atom. So here's the nucleus, this purple blue center. And this energy is called the energy of excitation. I don't know why they picked that word, but that's what they chose. So you have like a photon, an energy, like photons are these energy waves. It comes in and it bops this electron right here and it goes flying up into this other energy state. So electrons have specific orbits. They're not like planets that can orbit anywhere around a sun, that they just fall into. They have specific orbits where they belong, and they cannot exist anywhere other than that orbit for a momentary second. But this photon comes in, boots it up here. The electron gets jolted into this higher energy state. But as soon as that energy is gone, it drops back down to where it wants to be. And when it does that, it emits a specific wavelength of light. So light all has different wavelengths. So this one emitted a green wavelength. And just depending on the atom and how far up the electron went and how far it has to go down back to where it belongs, that determines the wavelength of the energy that comes off, and that determines the color. So I just really love that. Does all of that make sense?
It does. I just never thought of that before. That's really cool. I love the picture too.
Thank you.
Well, it's fire and it's water and it's everything.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and so then here's what came up with the colors in fire. Our colors in our chakra system are the same as the colors in fire. So we go from let's see, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and then whatever this one is up here, crystal, I suppose, like white light maybe. So the fire though, so that's bottom to top. Fire, bottom to top, goes the other way around. So it's going to be more blue and green at the center of the fire, and then it becomes more red, then orange, then yellow, and then white at the top. And actually, well, I'm going to say white is hotter than yellow. So the white would be a little bit further down, I think. But anyhow, the different colors of the light in fire correspond to the temperature. So like when you look at stars, you can see some twinkle blue and some twinkle red and some just twinkle what looks like white. So the blue ones are the hottest stars and usually the biggest ones. The red ones, and they're also the youngest. They're burning really hot. And the red ones are usually, they're older, they're starting to die, they have expanded out, they're less dense, so they're making less heat. And the yellow ones are somewhere in between all of that. So it seems like it's upside down, but really what it's showing us is the infinity. So we come up in color and then fire comes down in color. So it's showing us that this need for the infinity that we are supposed to be channeling. And when I received this information, what I saw was that there's something in this shape, and they couldn't really explain it to me. I just know there's something in the shape that as the center point in us, is in our body where things cross. When it leaves and then comes back, it's during that leaving time before it comes into the center, it refreshes. And then it comes back down and gives to us. And then then the infinity goes down and comes back up and refreshes. So that's why there's such a need for keeping our own electrical balance proper, getting out, getting our feet on the ground, practicing the above and below connection and that infinity thing that happens when we do that. I want to make sure I didn't forget something. No, that's everything. Do you have any questions on that?
Not right now. That's a really neat thing to think about, though.
Yeah. I liked it too. Okay, so then here we are with seeds. And yeah, seeds need fire to germinate. There's not a whole lot of new I can tell you about this, except this what came up in my meditation on what the messages are. So started to look at the different types of trees that needed fire to open them up. So, there are pine cones and there are all kinds of pines. I didn't write them all down. There are all kinds of different types of pines that need the fire to open up the cone, because the cone has been totally sealed shut with this waxy resin. It does not open by itself. So, and then giant sequoias. And the ceanothus is a shrub, but I was so intrigued by its process that I included it here, because the leaves are coated with a flammable residue, so they're designed to burn, but that gets their seeds to germinate. And the ceanothus their roots are fire resistant, so they grow back.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't kill the roots. So it actually, the ceanothus, it's like the phoenix. New life springs from the fire. So I was totally fascinated by that. It doesn't fit as much with the message that I received about these seeds, and it's something else to be looked at even further. What it's talking about, because it doesn't quite fit with what came up with the pines and the sequoias and the cypress. But the last little point being that when this fire goes through, it releases minerals in the land and clears everything, makes room for these kinds of tree seeds. And it actually promotes the type of soil that a tree would need also. So this is what was interesting about this, because so most of these seeds are old growth forest, and they come from a group of trees that are called gymnosperms. And these are trees that they have a male and female counterpart. So they're not together on the same tree. So they have to be interspersed with each other, and so fertilization can take place. And these are older trees than what we have a lot of now, which are called angiosperms. So the angiosperms make fruit. So an apple tree, a peach tree, anything that makes a fruit, it has a flower, and it gets pollinated and it makes a fruit. And these types of trees have the male and female aspect all in one plant. Not the pines or the sequoias. They're not like that. You got a male, you got a female in a separate tree. So what they're showing us is there's the duality that we are here on this planet, but the singularity is here existing with us at the same time. So the individuation of all of us little God sparks, right? That's the duality, and yet we are all one. That's the singularity. So this is what the old growth forest has been called in science. It's not as evolved as a tree that can do everything inside one being, and yet it's here and it needs to be here. And even the fruiting trees, their seeds need to be exposed in some way to germinate also. The fire does this for pine cones because there is the divine purpose of our old growth trees is this really deep, solid protection of the earth. That old growth forest is really important. It carries all this wisdom, and they are such massive beings. They're not just big physically, they're really big energetically too. And they are earth protectors, and therefore the seeds themselves, they need extra protection. There also needs to be a slow release, because the old growth trees, like the giant sequoias or the redwoods or the lodgepole pines, they're very good at what they do, and they need a lot of time to mature, and they're not going to be ready to raise their own babies until they have reached a certain level of maturity, and it takes time for that. So this is a really slow process. So the seeds are magical and important. They need extra protection because they are deep, deep protectors of the earth themselves. We don't need a lot of them, so the fire makes it more difficult for the germination. And it also keeps the trees that are there from having to nurture a bunch of little babies all at once when they themselves are teenagers. So that's why it works that way. So what that means for the human person is that whatever it is that is our fiery passion also needs to be protected, but what we protect needs to be activated by that fire. So what we are doing, what our soul purpose is, requires us to be fiery and passionate about it. And the purpose around that is so that when it gets ignited, when it gets exposed to the world, then it is supposed to grow like a tree, really big and fierce, yet gentle and loving. And that representation is really, it's really important, because that our soul purpose is what we are about as an individual. That's the duality. And yet we also need to be in community. That's the singularity. So that's what these seeds are showing us, is don't forget that duality is a gift. You know, being an individual is a gift. Yes, we all want community. Yes, we all want connection. But this is a gift in each of us, that it is unique to us and to us alone. So that's the meaning behind those particular tree seeds.
So that would be honoring your own gifts and honoring the gifts of everybody else for the community.
Yes. Yeah, it would be. The community, since we're talking about it, is represented by the fruiting trees. They just didn't come up in this, in this particular, and it's probably because they don't need fire to germinate.
Right.
They're eaten by something. You know, something eats the fruit and drops the seeds. Like birds eat the berries, and then the seeds come out in their droppings, and it spreads them all over. Or somebody eats a peach and then throws the pit. So that's how that works.
The fire of digestion.
Yes, and I could see how that whole representation is that the community is feeding the individual then, right? The community does feed the individual.
Right.
Yeah. So do you have any questions on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do then is we're going to do our fire meditation. And I'm going to rearrange myself here. Um, so we're going to meet our fiery goddess.
Right.
I
Let's see.
know. See what we get. All right.
I'm going to grab him.
Yeah, get yourself comfortable.
Okay.
All right. Let's see, we are at, oh, we're doing all right. Okay. All right. So let's close our eyes and take 3 good heart breaths from our heart center. And with each breath, breathe into your heart light and watch that light expand to encompass your whole heart and then your body. And as far out as you would like it to go. And then invite the archetype of divine masculine and divine feminine into your heart center. Create the unified heart space with them and yourself. And from this place of unity, we can create clear vision for ourselves as we travel through the ethers to receive information. And now we see ourselves at a lava flow, like in Hawaii, a slow lava flow that's just oozing up out of the ground. And it's warm, but it does not burn us because we are fire beings. Right now, we are fire beings. Getting in touch with our inner fire. And we are able to walk into that lava flow as if it were water and dive into it. And it takes us deep into the earth. And it takes us into the earth center. We are in the earth center, where the source of the earth's heat comes from. And in this center, there's some kind of room. It's a room, it's an opening. It's more like an opening. I see it as, it's almost like a cave, except everything is molten and red. And through all of the lava walks out your goddess, your fiery goddess. And she has something in her hand for you. And she is actually, I see her placing this gift, this spark, this little flame of passion into our hearts. That is going into our hearts now. She might have a message for you. Just listen for a moment. Or there's a feeling that's coming through. I'm feeling love. There's love that's coming from her. And that spark that went into our hearts is now traveling through our chakra systems, creating like a sparkler over our heads. Then that the light from the sparkler drops down onto us and back through all of our chakras, lighting up our entire chakra system. Now our goddess she's receding. I see her receding back into the lava. And we rise up back through the molten lava, out of the volcano and back onto the land. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
There you are.
Here I am. What did you see?
Well, when you said we were flame beings, I just saw flames dancing. And when it was right after you said, that the flame was in our hearts, all of a sudden it was just this big red tabby just laying down. A big orange, I guess I should say, not red, but a big orange tabby, which I thought was really kind of funny. And, maybe kind of represents that for me or something.
Maybe it does.
I don't know. That was interesting. But that's mainly what I saw. I mean, I kind of could see the lava and stuff like that, but the cat was a very interesting part of that. I'm going to have to kind of look at
that. Is interesting. Yeah. So that there's some energy combined with that, with the fire and the animal to look at. So the next thing as far as the homework would be to reconnect with that, and you can simply go straight to this cat, and you don't have to go back through the lava or through that whole visualization unless you want to. You can use your own process that you use to connect with any of the things that you decide to connect with, because now you have an image and it will just take you right to that energy. I got this, I just got this very, very dark skinned woman that came in, and she was very almost cartoonish in how thin she was. It's almost not possible to be that thin, and you couldn't be healthy. It's just weird how dark and sort of spindly she was. It was interesting. So I don't think I know this energy. I don't think it's anybody that I have connected with in the past. So I'm definitely going to go back and investigate. And that's what we'll be doing on Thursday.
Okay.
I'll be coming live from the mountains. I'm going to the
Live.
mountains. I know. Assuming you all are there.
Now that I'm not traveling, I can be. It's just, it's been kind of hard because I was trying to do that thing with Alicia also, and I just felt like I didn't have time for anything, and I didn't like that.
It gets like that.
Good lesson, you know, taking notes.
Right? And watch the replays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also just to realize about myself, you know, about trying to do too much, or I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I've had to take a step back from things and make some choices too. So it seems like I've got so many things going on, and I'm way behind my own self with things that I need to replays I need to listen to.
Right.
So, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.